Everyone, welcome. Looks like we've got everyone joining now, so we'll give it just a minute, let those numbers climb up, and then we'll get things started.
Awesome.
David, Jesus, how you guys doing?
Doing absolutely amazing. So excited to be here today.
Awesome.
Likewise.
I'm really liking that stand-up desk situation you got. I think you're standing up. I don't know,
Yeah,
but I
man.
like
I'm
the background
standing up.
situation. Stretching
Yeah.
out,
No,
staying loose.
yeah, people
Two of
always love
us.
that. It's some panels I bought off of Amazon, and they work great.
Oh, that's perfect. Love it. Giving
Yeah,
There,
secrets away right from the top.
there's some
right at
people
the
that say
top.
that
Jesus,
some people say
how
that
have you
seating
been?
is the new desk. Some people say that seating is the new smoking. Just saying, my friend.
I haven't heard that.
I-
First thing today, I'm gonna write down.
Sitting is the new smoking. Yeah, man. I'll
Yeah.
tell you, I can definitely feel the difference when I'm at because I have a podcast desk studio thing too, and when I'm
Yeah,
sitting, it's very subdued, and it's maybe just it's a little different kind of energy. And if I'm doing something like this, I love to be standing because I want to make sure we're giving all the stuff away.
yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's get this started, and then if anyone kind of jumps in late, they can get caught up. I think it'll be pretty clear what we're talking about here. So, we're talking about lead conversion strategies for real estate investors. And I'm the chief commercial officer at Launch Control. We have an SMS engagement platform, but we're really focused on helping give people the tools they need to scale up their business at any stage of their business, right? If you're going from solo entrepreneur on your way up, or you're at the place where you're going from seven figures to coach to influencer to empire builder, right? And I couldn't think of two better people to have on with me because you guys represent, each side of the funnel of really kickstarting your business and doing things right and tactics. And when you get those deals teed up, being able to close them, move on, look back at your full pipeline, and really scale up your business. So, in terms of that through line of scalability and growing your company, other than just liking you guys, I think you're the perfect co-host to have on here. So, I'm really happy to have you here. Jesus is going to kick us off. David, you're going to finish us off.
I can
Jesus,
do it.
before you get going, everybody here that's an attendee, if you could throw in the chat, you have two options at the bottom. You've got Q&A, you've got chat. If you could put into the chat where you're joining us from and what stage you're at in your business, because we've got a plan here of what we're going to talk through, but the three of us are pretty adept at winging it, and we want to make sure that we're addressing what you need to know at the stage of business that you're at right now. So yeah, let us know where you're joining us from and where you're at with your business. And then if you have any questions that you want us to address in the Q&A at the end, put those into the Q&A box down at the bottom. We'll collect those and we'll get to that in the last 15 minutes of the presentation here. Okay. So
I'm
first
reading
off,
in the chat
we're going to talk
that
about data
it seems like
services. Go
it
ahead,
seems like
Jesus.
the chat is disabled. No, it seems like the chat is disabled.
Oh, it is. Okay. Well,
I can see questions already popping in.
Yeah, some questions. So please feel free to use the question and answer for now.
okay.
Nice.
I
Cool.
think the chat should be open now.
Yeah, I can see it. So,
Okay.
guys, one thing, I'll jump in real fast here.
Yes.
Just somebody's been doing this for 21 years. There are no dumb questions. Like, we all recognize that there are going to be people here that are of a lot of different levels. So please, here's what I want you to, the way that I want you to view this, this webinar, this next hour, is there's something in your business that's holding you back. Right? We all have that thing. And I want you to use this as that opportunity to ask those questions here because you have people with a mountain of knowledge and experience. And, we're taking time out of our day and we're here to help you. So, whatever those questions are, please put them in the chat box, chat, whatever it is, because we can all sit here and just stare at the camera and talk about whatever we think you want to know, but oftentimes that's not what you need. And, we want you to come out of this today with actionable things that you can implement into your business today and tomorrow, and that we move the needle. So please, the questions are very important, not just for us, but also for you.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, David. So Jesus, I figured we'd start with you. You are the guru of data, and data is such a huge question in this industry. And one of the things I love about what both of you preach is it's focused on efficiency. It's focused on how to get more deals out of what you've got by having the right ideas and the right tactics and things in place. So I don't know anybody better than you at this, Jesus. So I'm gonna hand it over to you and let you kick it off with data, because I know that's a huge question for everyone.
Well, thank you, Michael, and I really appreciate, and I just want to echo what David said. A lot of people are putting questions in the chat now, and I just want to encourage everybody to ask any questions throughout. I see there is a mix in between beginners and some people doing a few deals a month consistently. So I'm going to try to address the best way for the different stages. And again, Michael, thank you for putting the bar up there. I'll try to live up to those expectations. So I want to say,
sorry, Jesus is kind of okay at this. All right, now blow them away.
Thank you. No, just want to say, start with, when it comes to outbound marketing, right? You need to think about everything as a whole system, right? In order for you to generate more leads and get better return on investment on your dollars, you need to think about data, the outbound, the scripts, how often you text as a system. And that's part of what we do at 80/20. We help our clients not only with the data part, but also leveraging tools like launch control to get better return on investment. And in order to start, I want to set the premises. We've done this many, many years. We've worked with some of the highest and best investors in the country. And what we learned is data is 30% of the equation of generating leads and getting better return on investment. Having great data is 30% of the equation, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But the frequency on how often do you text? What do you do when they respond, and how do you re-engage with them? We call that strategy. That's 50% of the equation. And the final ones is the text message that you send, the actual responses that you engage with them, right? So we call that tactics. I want to focus more today in the data and the strategy. I think you guys are going to get a lot of value from that. And Launch Control has a ton of resources for you guys to talk about the right messaging, the right responses, and things like that. So stepping back and going to data, I think it's super, super important that first you segment your data into different tiers. Not all data is born equal, right? David, you are a wealth of knowledge. Michael, you know too. You guys will agree with me that an owner going through a pre-foreclosure, they got the letter, they're gonna lose their house in the next 2 months, cannot be treated the same as somebody who is just a senior owner and has high equity.
Right.
Would you guys agree
Yeah,
with that?
absolutely. The clock is ticking for those people, and they need somebody that one is can reach out and can help them. And you have to understand that also that personality type, if you want to dig even just a little deeper, the 40,000 or so, whatever it is, foreclosures that happen every month, each one of those people were contacted many times, right, by refinance people and mortgage brokers and realtors and investors and all of that type of stuff. So you certainly need to understand, one, their situation, but also their personality type. And typically people that go into foreclosure have an avoidance issue, right? A little bit of ostrich head in the sand kind of thing. And, even if you door knock, they'll say, no, everything's good, and close the door on you. So no, you're absolutely right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Michael. Yes, please.
Yeah, when you segment your data like that, what you're doing is you're isolating your conversations down to individuals. You know who you're speaking to. And if you know who you're speaking to, you can craft the solutions that they need. You craft the solutions that they need, and you end up with deals, right? Your buyers buy houses, right? Your sellers are individuals with problems. And if you can solve those problems in a neat, efficient way for them by speaking to them as a human being, you're always going to.
Yes. So that's exactly what I was going to go into, is specifically the way that we believe in data. You need to segment them in two different categories. There's two types of separations, that segmentation of the data. One is the urgency. right? The urgency allows you to create different strategies on how often you're going to engage with them, right? We agree that pre-foreclosure and high equity should be treated differently. In a ideal world, I would text or outreach to the urgent people, right, in your list more frequently than the people that are there. You don't need to overreach to properties that are not as distressed, or they don't have a visible life event that is indicating that they're going to sell, right? So that's number one. What we do at 80/20 REI, we predict the properties are more likely to sell at a discount, and we give them segmented on these tiers. We call them urgent, high, and low. And essentially what we're doing is helping our clients from taking that data and creating a plan on exactly when to reach out by text, call, or mail, and be very strategical on your touch points, because you can waste a lot of money trying to reach out every 2 weeks. High equity owner that are not really interested. There's nothing there. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't reach out to them. It's just that how often you engage with them, right? So that's level one. And there's multiple ways that you can do that. One way is actually if you were to be a high-level investor already doing multiple deals a month and you want to outsource your data solution, we could be a great fit for you. I would love to talk to you guys about that and explain. The other one is if you're not and you're still building your business up and you're trying to get that point, you can use stacking tools so you can create a list that shows in multiple data points so you can create this strategy. We call them a 30, 60, 90 days strategy. So if you can break your list on urgency levels first and create how often you will outreach to them and you approach them differently, you will make a significant improvement in your return on investment, because you're not going to be spending too many touch points on properties that are really likely to sell. We have a list like for people that are beginning or earlier in their journey and they want to know. I'll shoot my email if you guys want. You can shoot me an email. We'll send you a list so you can segment your list. So for example, we call urgent. I'll give this a simple way for beginners or people who are trying to get their first deal. If you have access to a 2-year plus tax delinquent list, a pre-foreclosure list, that will qualify under your urgent properties, right? That's a simple way to put properties based on categories. An absentee out of state, a 1-year tax delinquent will fall under a little bit less frequent messages, right? And then you have the broad lists, everything that is high equity, empty nesters, all of those that are not really visible. I will put them on a 90-day sequence. We can share with you. We have a resource that we can share. We'll send it. And the second category that we like to segment the property is exactly what Michael said in the beginning, right? You have the people who are going through financial distresses, and you want to tailor a message to them that is solving that problem. You have the absentee owners. They have a completely different, they need to receive a completely different message from somebody who's an owner-occupied, right? Then you have the seniors. You might want to convey a little bit more confidence. There is a different type of way that you can engage with the senior owner versus a younger crowd, right? So we like to segment the property in levels of urgency for frequency purposes, and in avatars. We call them avatars, in order for you to craft a message that allows you to really talk to the pain points they need solutions for.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, Jesus. One of the things that we talk about at Launch Control a lot is about just gaining the active attention of homeowners. Right. So the strategies that Jesus is talking about in that individualizing the way that you reach out to people, if you can get that first response into Launch Control, or that first response of somebody calling you directly to ask about solutions, at that point, you have their captive attention. They're looking at their phone or they're onto their phone. At that point, it's a sales challenge, an investing challenge. Can you use what you know about the situation that they're in, what your knowledge of the industry, whatever help and charm you can offer into that situation to further that conversation? It becomes different levels of strategy, right? If you know who you're talking to, you know you have a much better idea of the shortest route to that endpoint, which is you talking to David about ways to close out that deal as fast as possible and turn back and close down another, right?
Yes, 100%. And I would add that the way that I like to bring this home is, imagine you have two different lead sources, right? One where they fill out a form and they tell you what they're going through, why the reason for selling, right? And one reason for selling is my family member passed away. I need to sell my house. I don't want to deal with this. It's too much for me. And another seller is, I just want to know what you're going to offer me. You will create on a follow-up, when you're receiving that lead, you're going to work that lead differently. All I'm trying to convey here is bring that attention from the prospect perspective, because data today allows you to create a game plan for each one of the prospects before they even become a lead. So you can be very intentional on what message do you send and how often do you send, so you can get better results, right? This allows you to be very targeted, very efficient, avoid spam going up. There's a lot of things that benefits from that. And it's just a deep understanding of data and applying it in an intentional way.
Absolutely. Okay, well, let's move on to the next segment of the discussion, and then you guys can of course pause me at any point, and we'll just carry on from here. So what I want to talk about, guys, is how you take a lot of those strategy and tactics that Jesus is talking about, and you put them into essentially a scalable machine, right? There's a I don't know, a problem. I don't know if that's the right word, but there's a habit of people within the real estate investment space of having a very versus mentality, where they want to do things in pipelines, right? I'm going to set up my cold call pipeline and see how that performs. I'm going to set up my SMS pipeline and see how that performs and compare it against the other pipeline. Then I'm going to scale up and set up pipelines 3, 4, and 5. And the entire time it's separate pipelines instead of a combined ecosystem where you're using everything playing off of each other to close out as many deals as you possibly can. So what I want to talk about isn't just SMS, but how SMS works as a foundational element of that machinery that you put into place. So I'm going to share my screen just to give you guys a couple of visuals. But one of the things that we really try to get people to focus on from an early stage is setting up what I would call your marketing starter kit. Okay, so if you register with Launch Control, the first thing that you're going to be, or if you sign up for Launch Control, the first thing you're going to be asked to do is to register your company with the U.S. carriers. And what that does is it creates a one-to-one B2B relationship with the carriers. And that the way that they vet your business as a fair business partner, somebody that they want to allow messaging to go through their systems from, is by looking at your website. And they look to see if it is SMS optimized, make sure the privacy policy is in place. Once that has been vetted, you move through. Now, most businesses, they use their website as the core way in which they get inbound leads coming in, right? Much of their sales, 90% of their sales, 100% of their sales comes from inbound leads. In not just REI, but home services in general, the website tends to be a storefront. It's there because you have to have it, but it doesn't have a high usage, or it isn't a real center point of the business in terms of lead capture. But that's where things are going in that arena, where in order to have, whether it's cold calling, SMS, there's more and more attention paid to the recipient and how that recipient is valued within your ecosystem. So by having that professional website up, SMS capture there with the capture form, what you're doing is not just ticking a box that allows you to send SMS messages. You're enabling a business, even at any stage, whether it's at the beginning or further down, to increase your inbound leads by a percentage month over month, till you get to the point that your inbound leads are a really, really important resource for you. Now, I think Jesus, you and David, I'd love to hear from both of you guys on this, but when you're closing deals and you're doing these, your initial outbound calls, and you do everything that Jesus mentioned, you still have to win trust, right? You still have to pinpoint motivation. But when they come to you, when you can set up the mechanisms, when they come to you, those motivated leads, those are significantly easier to close, I would assume.
100% every single time. Yeah, I used to run retail stores, and when somebody would call in a hardware store and looking for information on a water heater, like, that's a buyer. Like, they are not calling you for no reason. They stopped what they were doing, they looked up your number, they called you, as opposed to outbound marketing where you're calling somebody else. Like, that's okay, it's good, it still works, and it's very necessary. But 100% acquisitions, dispositions, always better when somebody calls you to find out how you can help them and what you have to offer.
Okay, great. And Jesus, did you want to chime in as well?
Absolutely. Any inbound lead source has higher conversions across the nation, but it's also super important to, when you are doing outbound, right, to really train your team to look for what is the seller trying to solve, so you increase the quality of the lead when it goes to your sales team as well. There are ways through data and process, with data and strategy, that you can increase the quality of your lead so you don't overload your sales team processing lower quality leads.
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason I bring this up as kind of foundation number one for your marketing starter kit is it's putting you into a position to have scalable systems. Now, I know that one of the arguments people have is that I can't afford a multi-tiered marketing system, right? But the thing is that any big marketing system where you're talking about investors that are running TV ads and radio spots, and they've got PPC going and direct mail, and they're doing SMS, of course, and they're doing cold calling, they're running the gamut, right? All of those systems can be scaled down. And if they can be scaled down, they can be scaled back up, right? So you just need to have the certain tenets. There are certain elements of marketing that are free. Or speaking of your website, organic SEO is free. If you can get more eyeballs to your website, you'll get more leads coming in that way. Social media is free. If you can talk about the solutions and I'd love to do a whole webinar on this, but every investor focuses most of their social media time talking to other investors, rather than talking to homeowners and about solutions and getting them to come earlier to the stage before they hit that point of like not having another choice, right? When they're actually looking into options. If you can gain their trust in that space, you've got untapped resources, untapped leads that nobody else is talking to, right? So using social media in a way that is different than other investors are using it, and maybe more recipient focused, could get you some more of those leads coming in. Those things are free. All right. SMS engagement is not expensive. It is the least expensive way that you can start that, using some of that data that Jesus can provide, and applying some of that strategy and getting those, as I said, active conversations coming in. It's your first foundational element that you want in your marketing starter kit, and it's something that you can build on. And the reason that I say that it is the first foundational element is because what you want to be able to do, and I'm going to pull both of you guys in on this in just a second to chime in, but what you can do when you have a more sophisticated system, that system that I mentioned before, where you're running direct mail and paid advertising and radio and TV spots, is you start to use SMS as a way to close out those deals. So if you send out direct mail, for instance, and you get those calls start coming in. Those are great. Those are those motivated leads we were talking about, right? They looked at a card that you sent them and they took the time to call you to ask questions. Great leads. You have to wait for them. It's passive. It's not active. But when they come in, they're great leads, right? But you're not going to close all of them. And so what do you do in that case? Because sometimes it's pre-foreclosure. Sometimes there's a ticking clock. Sometimes it's a matter of timing. And you have to be the solution at the time that they are ready to take that solution. And if you can use SMS to retarget, put them onto an automation, a drip automation and launch control, and be a consistent resource and a consistent problem solver, when they're ready to solve that problem, they're going to come to you. Right? Same thing for PPC. Same thing for radio and TV. I see a lot of people running TV ads that are just call. Right? Why not have SMS optimization added to the landing page so you're giving yourself multi-tiered options to re-engage with them? So it's again, it's an ecosystem. It's not pipelines. It's an ecosystem. And the question is, how do you use these elements off of one another to keep the captive attention of the people that you are talking to? And by keeping their captive attention, giving yourself the ability to be the solution when they are ready for a solution. So so David, Jesus, I'd love you guys to kind of chime in about some of the companies maybe you've worked with, your own experiences about using omni-channel marketing and the ways to keep these kind of foundational elements, using these foundational elements to keep leads alive and conversations going.
Sure. So a couple of things in there. I love everything that you said. One, because I know that we've probably had a diverse audience listening to this, right? They may not have 5 or 10 years experience. And I was speaking about this to a coaching group yesterday, is when you're new, all of the things on the screen here, you're like, holy smokes, I just can't do all of that, because maybe you're a 1 or 2 person operation. And that's okay to understand, hey, this is where I'm going, and I'm going to do all of the things that I can do today. And as I start to add people, then I'm going to start to, implement more of these things, right? Like in the old days when I started, it was, silly stuff like you should be skip tracing your return direct mail. Well, yeah, that sounds great, but there's only so many hours in the day where I could be doing that. So yeah, keep this in mind. And as you grow and scale out your company, when you're adding team members, these are the things that you can have them help you with and help you execute on. But then the other thing is, you are absolutely right. Your business should never be dependent on a single lead source, no matter what it is, no matter how great it's working, because as we know, anything can change pretty much on a dime in our business and in our world. And we want to have multiple ways to get in front of customers. And then to reach back just even a few more minutes, Michael, what you talked about was engaging, clients earlier in the process. Man, I would just, if I was still nationwide wholesaling, I would start a group of like foreclosure rescue, right? Like just a Facebook group, because you'll instantly get probably 50,000 people in there, and talk about solutions, because that's what we do as investors. Is we're here to, to serve our clients and our sellers and help them find the solution. And sometimes it's okay if we're not the solution, right? Sometimes it's okay if, we, point them in a different direction, because if that's the direction that's best for them, that's what we want. So no, absolutely love everything that you brought up there, Michael.
I think, honestly, I think we should all be on a mission in the real estate investment industry to get every homeowner in the United States to understand that they have options, right? Like anybody that's into wholesale real estate now from an investor standpoint, I'm pretty sure 100% of people who got into wholesaling didn't know it existed 2 years before they did, right? You didn't know that it was a resource. So I feel like every homeowner should think, you know what, I'm going to go MLS. That's where I'm at. My place is nice. It's turnkey. I don't need to talk about subject to. I don't need to talk about wholesaling. I don't need someone to, I don't need to talk to any direct buyers. I'm going MLS. Others maybe weighing their options, and giving people enough education to weigh their options will increase leads for everybody exponentially.
Well, and it will come down to trust as well, right? Like when we were running a full nationwide wholesaling company, we would clearly tell people before we would even offer cash, hey, Michael, let me ask you a question, man. Why don't you just it sounds like you have a nice house. Why don't you just list it with a realtor? Like, you are never going to be the first person to put that thought into their brain, right? They have already thought it, right? So, by putting that out there, they will self-select out, right? There's a reason why. Either one, they just want a price like Jesus was talking about, or they don't want to have their house listed on the MLS. Maybe they don't like the way the insides look, or it's a mess, or whatever it is. And geez, Penelope, if you were my sister, I would tell you should probably just rent this property, right? Like, renting that's what I'm going to do with it. Oh, I don't know what deal with the tenants and all of those types of things. So, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And, we should come into this business with a servant's heart to legitimately try to help people. Like, that's how you're going to be successful, unless you're psychotic and really good at hiding it, right? We should be here to try to help people. But yeah, we freely will be like, you should rehab it, you should fix it, you should rent it, you should put your kid in there, like, because what will happen is, as I self-select out of all of those things and tell you why they don't work, at the end, your cash offer may be the only answer for them, and they just needed to work through that thought process. And just lastly, and I don't want to monopolize this, but one thing that I see from investors in some groups is they try to shoehorn in one particular strategy all the time. And, we should all be getting the education and the coaching, and, being in groups like this where we can learn about different ways to solve problems. And that's one thing we see at Easy REI Closings. Investors who have been around for a little bit, it's a little bit of this strategy and a little bit of this, and, whatever it takes to solve that seller's issue. And
Yeah.
you know what? They can sleep at night,
I want to comment on that, but I know Jesus, you had a point, so please jump in.
I wanna kind of go back a little bit to what you said, because a lot of David said brought me a few thoughts around most successful investors, right? This looks overwhelming, like David said this, right? Like, I know we have different type of investors on this call. And if you're a beginner, this is overwhelming. Absolutely. If you're trying to get to a level where you have all these channels, what I would say is following up is one of the most important things that you can do in your business, right? We all spend a lot of time talking about data, lead gen. Like, I'm taking my 80/20 REI business owner right now, is if you focus and building a great follow-up process for the different type of lead sources, and even with the SMS leads that you're getting, if somebody tells you no today, it doesn't mean a no forever. It's a not yet, right? And leveraging the drip campaigns and leveraging different marketing channels to generate leads, but leveraging calls, texts, and even direct mail to follow up with your existing pipeline consistently with a strategy, it's a game changer in your business. I see this across our most successful clients. What they're really good at is not the lead gen, they're really good at sales. And that starts with the follow-up, answering the phone on time, calling. And it's a mix of automated text messages, but also taking some of those steps need to be a manual person writing something to their specific situation, right? So I just wanted to wrap out a little bit there and let it sink in, because we need to spend a lot of time generating our leads. Obviously, our businesses doesn't work without leads. However, our focus should be in how do we convert the leads that we're getting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. And David, I want to kind of tie these two things together, because what you said is what I think of as magic bullet chasing, where you've got people that want one text. What is the one text that will get people to answer? There is no magic text, as what Jesus opened up with, right? Who are you talking to? Who is the individual? And how are you going to get their captive attention by being there? What did you say, David? People like to do business with people they know, like, and trust, right? So how can you use this opportunity to establish your own know, like, and trust with that individual, right? And I see a lot in coaching and REI. It's like, here's the thing. You say this one thing, it'll increase your deals by 20%. Do this one action, it'll, right? And a lot of that advice is good advice, but the just this one thing part is marketing. It is part of honing your strategy. And if that's part of honing your strategy, that can be great, right? But you have to have strategy. So when you think about, and on the screen, you can see CRM, you can see SMS, for both of those. And I'll add in cold calling because that's going to be a simple one that people are going to be doing. You can, based off of the responses that you're getting from people, when you start to get these, you segment your data the way Jesus is talking about. You know who you're talking to as an individual. You know how they respond in certain situations. You can start to map a decision tree for yourself or your team in the future. And this becomes a teachable model. So if the person answers A, you respond with B. If they respond with C, you take one of these two actions, right? These kinds of decision trees, you will find that within those subgroups, they follow very consistent lines, right? So my team can help show you how to do this for SMS within launch control. It takes a little time and it has to be tailored to your business, but it's very, very doable within launch control. But you also want to think of that again, and as I said, for your ecosystem, whether you're, as the screen shows, at the starter kit level, or you're up here on the pro level. You want to have that ability to isolate conversations with individuals and have a decision tree, because when you get to the 7-figure plus stage, you don't want to have to manage every step of your business. The struggle, I think, I know we've got a few people on here that are running really, really big operations, and love to hear from you. But I think one of the biggest challenges is how do you then step away without scalable systems? Right? If you don't have those scalable systems, you're constantly in the process of learning or of teaching or doing yourself, right? But if you start way back at the starter kit level and you start putting in decision trees, then you're able to scale those decision trees up and up and up and up, so that by the time you get to influencer level, guru level, you're on the beach in Costa Rica, you're chilling.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was speaking down in Tampa last week at an event, and somebody asked, like, what's the what was it? What's the one thing that made the biggest difference in your business, or who's the one person you should hire first? And I was probably a little too snappy with them in my reply, but like, everybody's different. Like, we're all different. We all run our businesses completely different. Like, I've been in the room with the top 50 wholesalers in the country, and they run it 52 different ways, right? Like, what I'm saying is, what may be your roadblock may not be my roadblock, right? And the things that I'm struggling with, you may not be. And for instance, like, I've got some of my very best friends who had amazing luck with this one particular cold calling company that it was a complete turd for me. Like, I've crushed it with SMS, right? Crushed it, like, love it. And I have other people who are like, I just can't get it to work. It doesn't work for me. So our business are all going to be a little bit different, and you're going to have to try a few different things and see what resonates with you and your personality and your team's personality. And then the other thing is, the reason that it took me so long to scale up my business is because I was the guy in the way. I didn't do the outsourcing. I didn't do the, bringing in somebody else to do, some data or the texting or the closings or whatever it is. And if you're going to scale and have a real business like we've been talking about, that's going to be important for you.
Yeah, David, so that's a perfect segue, actually. So, we've talked about data segmentation tactics. We've talked about setting up that ecosystem and having the scalable machinery to allow you to walk away. And then the last thing is just what you touched on, like when to know when to outsource, know when to have services in place that allow hyper efficiency in your business. So I'll let you jump into that, because you're our expert here for that.
Sure. So here's what I tell people, as somebody who's scaled up a couple of different companies, some up, some down. Scaling is awesome. It's not for everybody. I had a mentor that told me one time, you may not want to scale. You may not want the 10, 12, 15 person team, because it's a different life than the small team. And the example is, when it was myself and my wife, and we had a part-time bookkeeper, life was good, right? I was flipping 3 or 4 properties a month in Chattanooga, making good money at the time, but I could also shut it off on a Thursday and go to Europe for a month on Friday. right? You cannot do that when you have a larger scaled up team, right? Now I have over 20 people in my office here, and I'm responsible for them, right? So now there's 20 people who have spouses and dogs and kids and mortgage payments and, and I have VAs, and we have all of those things. So a lot of people throw around the scaling thing, and make sure that's what you really want. Because a couple of things are going to happen. When you're starting your business, you're going to have this growth, right? If you're paying any kind of attention and doing all of the things that you should be doing, you're going to have growth and you're going to make money. But when you start to scale, you're probably going to plateau for a little bit, maybe even a year, where you make the same amount of money or less, because now your attention is going to be a little bit diverted, and you're going to be bringing in new people. You're going to be adding, some more technology, and there's going to be some things that come into play that are going to probably slow you down just a little bit, at least on some level, right? You cannot be up and to the right all the time on a growth chart. So scaling's awesome, but you have to fight through those plateaus as you grow to get to the point where you want to be. And you know what? There are also days, I run a couple of 7-figure companies where I'm like, man, when I made 25 grand a month wholesaling, a few deals in Chattanooga, my life was pretty good too. So that's, just to talk about, scaling. I don't always want it to be like scaling. Yes, definitely you should do it. Because it's maybe not what everybody truly wants. Some people just want to have a lifestyle business. And I forgot the second part of that question because I rambled on. Yeah, lifestyle business, right? Like,
you should, if that's not yours, you should coin that. That's good.
Well, no, there's plenty of people that have said that. But once you get on the other side of scaling, right? Like, you can have that. Like, we're pretty close to having that kind of business where we don't have to be in the office anymore. But it takes time to build that core group of people around me. I've got an amazing team that's just the best, where literally I can travel and go do events and be all over the country. And, my business actually probably does better when I'm not here, because I'm not screwing around, distracting everybody. So yeah, so I think that was the question, maybe.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, hey, Sus, I would like to get your feedback on this as well, because I know that, a lot of what we talked about at the front side of this conversation is just about getting the captive attention of homeowners, right? And once you have their captive attention, really having the mentality and the sales processes in mind to actually convert those leads up to the point that you've got, a contract ready to go. You've got them agreed. And I know we have some questions about how to leverage SMS to get to cash buyers, and I will touch on that. But just in general, just someone with a lot of experience, anything that you can insights you can offer on just how to manage that side of the business as well, of just the nuts and bolts investing business side of it to create efficiencies.
Yeah, so we're still investors ourselves. My partner runs our real estate operation. We have, like David said, we don't have a huge operation, right? And it's by default. We use our real estate operation to capture rentals and build our portfolio and build wealth. We still do flips. We still do some wholesales because we keep that business alive. But understanding what your vision is, I think it's the most important thing that you can do as a business owner. And it's a personal journey that I'm in as of today still. But it is understanding what is your 3-year vision. What do you want for you before you decide what you want for your business, right? David said some really good points. Not everybody wants to scale a business and have dozens of employees. Some people just want to have a small team and be very successful. You can make 7 figures with a 5-people team in real estate. Completely possible. It depends on what you really want, right? So my recommendation around this business building and deciding what it is, I would step back and say what I really want. And there's a few good practices around. There's a couple books. Vivid Vision is a great book to read on this topic. And there's another one, I forgot the name. I think it's Start with the End. Start, Stop, Continue. I don't remember exactly what it is, but he talks about that concept of visualizing yourself at your funeral and what would you want people to talk about you. and they will give you some perspective on building the pillars for your next 3 years, and try to zone in that vision and stay aligned with that vision for yourself. I guess, did that answer, Michael?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It did in more depth than I was expecting. That was great. Thank you. All right. Not meaning I wasn't expecting you to bring depth. I just mean that was a really great answer. Okay, so let's jump to the questions. We've got about 10 minutes left. So I know that there was a question about the how to contact buyers. So let me throw some ideas out at you guys, meaning you, David and Jesus, and you guys tell me what you think. So what I would do, what I advise people to do I'm just going to speak to launch control, but there are obviously other ways that you can curate your buyers. One of the things that I would suggest is to really know who your buyers are, right? So, and you can use SMS to do this, but it's not just finding any house that fits your buy box, but what's their buy box for the next 60 days? Like what are they buying? Because you're the one that is going to be going through, thousands of data points, having hundreds of conversations, and having in your mind, like what in that 60-day window am I most likely to turn over? Because that's specifically what they're looking for. So by, taking the first step of just really knowing your buyers in the area and knowing what they're buying in that month can be really helpful. Now, a way that you can do that in launch control is, and this gets into that personalized nature of texting, right? Like getting out of the mentality of blasting and into the mentality of having isolated conversations with individuals. Your buyers are the same thing, right? But it's easier because it's not B2C, it's B2B, right? They make money by having you offer solutions to them, right? You tee up the offer, they know that they're paying a little bit above, but that for the ease of transaction, they're in, right? So it's a B2B conversation, right? So, but what you want to do is, let's say that you have easy number 100 buyers in your market. You're in a pretty big market, got 100 buyers. And so you send out a initial message that gets people to opt into a monthly list, where you say something like, hey, I've got 2 or 3 properties available every month. I'd like to work with a close group of buyers in the area. I can text you when I've got something that fits what you need. And do you want it, right? Or should I add you to the list? When they reply positively, now every tool within launch control is unlocked, right? So now you have your first quick reply asking them, all right, perfect. I don't want to bother you with homes that don't fit your buy box. What are you looking to buy in the next 60 days? Now you've got interaction with them about what they're specifically looking for. Now you can then create drips based off of those buy box parameters, right? So you've got a group of buyers that are looking for qualities A, B, and C in a house. Anything that fits that, they get put onto a drip, letting them know that a property is available, and you're creating a competitive market. Any buyers that fit property aspects or buy box aspects, C, D, and E, they get put into a different drip, right? And all you have to do is update the property details. You know it fits their buy box. It's just a few details about the property. And it's not an email, it's a text. So all you're trying to do is get them to say via that drip automation, hey man, that sounds great. Let's talk. Right? And then you just move it to the in the business of investing. But you're curating your buyers list into what their buy box is, what they're looking for. So every month you can look at both ends of the funnel, right? You can look at the data that you've got coming in on this side, and you've got the sell opportunities on the backside. And you're just using SMS in our case to get the captive attention of a homeowner, to create that. David, what were your 3 things again? They want to
no like and trust.
Yes, know, like, and trust, right? Establishing your know, like, and trust, establishing solutions, becoming the solution that they need, turning around, looking at your curated list of buyers, putting it through that funnel, and then using whatever additional services you may need from David and his team to be able to turn back around immediately and close another deal.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. And listen, all of that information is fantastic. We do a ton of coaching on dispositions as well. But like if your buyers keep telling you they want the red house on the blue hill with the purple door, like that's a clue. Like take that data, your dispositions to whoever's handling or getting those messages, like that should be being fed back not only to your acquisitions team, but even to your marketing team. Because if people keep saying they want, you know, 7 bedroom, 9 bath houses on the golf course, and that's a repeatable, response that you're getting, then, you can turn that into your marketing and start to get even more efficient.
Yeah. Let me add something real quick there, because you said blast, and you just said something, David, that I think it's so important is it's actually part of what we do is we help understand, and you can do this on your own, but it's understanding what's happening in your market, right? We are called 80-20 REI because we believe in the 80-20 principle, which is 20% of your efforts will generate 80% of your results, right? So buyers and sellers, you can look at the 80-20 on both spectrums, right? And if you look in your market, you will see a lot of transactions are happening to a handful or a few buyers, and focus on building a really good relationship with them, understanding what's their buy box, understanding the buy box of your market. You can see today data is available for you to understand what are the property characteristics of the majority of the deals, of the 80% of the deals in your market. And you're gonna find out that they have a lot in common. And then you use that information for the front end, for your seller lead. So you only focus on properties that are in your market's buy box, and build a connection with the top 20% buyers in your market, so you can have a deep connection with them and not blasting everybody who ever bought a property in your market. Because data can show you hundreds of thousands of absentee owners in a market, but it doesn't mean that they're actively buying, right? They're not actively flipping or actively doing anything. There is a 20% of those potential transactions that are really concentrated, and you can build a deeper connection by applying the 80-20 principle for the front end, for generating the leads, and for the back end, connecting with your buyers, allow you to be way more efficient and connecting the dots and solving the problems that we're doing as investors.
Absolutely. The one thing that I talk about a lot is every dollar that we invest in marketing is like a little soldier, right? It goes out to work and it needs to come back with 3 or 4 friends. So to kind of, go back to where we started at the very beginning with, we want to create those efficiencies. We don't want to be out here just, swinging at leaves that are falling from the trees. We want to make sure that, our time and our money is spent in a way that will yield the best results. So 100%, we talk about the 80-20 rule. By the way, has anybody ever looked up the 80-20 rule? I can't remember his name, but I think it was an Italian businessman who was doing a study of property ownership in Italy. And the 80-20 rule actually came from real estate. So anybody wants to look that up, a little fun fact. But yeah, 100%. Same thing on dispositions. You want to make sure that you are getting in front of the right buyers who have bought properties recently. And that will, again, that 20% of your effort will give you 80% of the results. And then when that doesn't work, then we have kind of a fallback, list of things that we'll work on. So no, great point.
All right, guys. So I'm going to answer real quick. We got a few questions about opt-out. Guys, I want you to think about, when you think about opt-out, I want you to think about when at the beginning of the conversation, when I said you're in a B2B relationship with the carriers, and the carriers end users are the recipients, the homeowners, right? And they need to make sure that those recipients feel like they're in a safe space as their clients, right? And so giving them the option to opt out is tantamount to any successful SMS campaign. And so we will work with the carriers on occasion. We'll run some tests to give more people within an entire ecosystem the opportunity to opt out. And all that does really is it takes people that weren't going to engage out of the system, tees up more motivated leads, and then gives you a very, very clean, healthy relationship with the carriers. What gets people into trouble, the reason why campaigns will occasionally get flagged, or meaning an investor's campaign directly linked to the carriers, will get flagged is almost always due to lack of respect for people wanting to opt out or over use of data. So what Jesus said in the beginning, pacing is different depending on the homeowner's motivation, and not just having your pace be as early and often as possible, but actually having a planned cadence to it. It goes into that, right? So with a planned cadence and a real respect for opt-out, what you end up with is getting what's left of the people that are really willing to engage via text. Anybody that doesn't, because they opted out of text, it does not mean they opted out of your ecosystem, right? So as you build up those different multi-marketing channels, you can still re-engage with people, and they might respond to you via a direct mail piece and end up right back in launch control as a retarget effort, because they've come to you from a motivated space. So think of it as an ecosystem. Think of it as keeping your relationship with the carriers 100% clean, healthy, and allowing you to text long-term. We had another question from Paul, and David and Jesus. I'm going to throw this one to you guys. I have some thoughts, but you're the pros. How and when do you transition from text to phone? And what type of handoff process do you employ from opening caller/text acquisitions?
As fast as possible. The quicker I can get somebody off of text and onto phone, the better. Same thing with if they're on Facebook Messenger or anything else. As fast as possible. Acquisitions and dispositions, I want to get them on the phone very quickly so that I can start building that rapport and really digging in and finding out what their issue is. Now, some people are going to be the people who just want to do everything through text. Honestly, I am that person, because I don't want to talk to people, because I'm pretty talked out by the end of the day. But 95% of your people, you should jump them to a phone call just as quick as possible. But Jesus, what do you think?
You nailed both points that I wanted to make. Like a phone, it's more dynamic. You get way more information. You can get a sense. So many things get lost on SMS. But I would say it's a little bit higher than 5% of people want to strictly have an SMS conversation. And so I will look for cues, Paul, on this. I will look for cues, meaning how fast they're responding and how short or long are their responses. If you ask them about the condition of the property and they give you a 300-character response, giving you all the details that you want, you don't need to rush to move that conversation to a phone call. You can continue asking. That might be the preferred method of communication of that seller, and I will keep it that way, right? So look for cues. We used to do a lot of texting too, and we were always looking if they're responding in less than 5 minutes and their responses are yes, no, very short, we would transition out to a call or even a cold call, right? And pick up from there without any transition, just start calling them. Try to do a transition as well, right? But just call them. But if they're giving me all the information that I want, I'll keep them in that channel. I don't want to take them away from that channel. There is a point that you will still want to set up a call, but you can gather a lot of information through that text message.
Yeah, and if you guys, going back to what I was saying about decision trees and kind of mapping out response structures, I think you'll find again that as you model those out, there's quite a lot of repetition, and you can find those inflection points where it's when to keep it on a text, when to push it to a call, when to let it cool down and retarget them, in a couple of weeks or even a few months when they've had time to process their options a bit more. But yeah, I think you'll find that it's not as Jesus said, it's not a common answer. It's really about how well you perceive their needs and really mapping what those response structures are, so you can find those points. You go, oh, that's a call. Keep this on text, and have a system that you can model and teach.
Yeah, and having that system is important. And let me differentiate between me being on text and my team being on text, right? Like I'm going to know and be able to clutch and break that a lot easier. But I've also had team members who would mess around on text all day long and never like solve anything, right? So if you're moving the conversation forward, 100%, I agree. But if I've got somebody who's over there just all day, texting one word answers back and forth. My suggestion would be, hey, why don't you type this? Hey, would it be easier for us to just jump on a call? Something like that, and trying to throw that out there and see what happens.
One thing I will say about that, because this has come up quite a bit recently, so I'll address it. A lot of people, I think, especially in like a pre-foreclosure space, are getting a question like, well, what's your offer? Or I want $200K for the house, right? And they're having a challenge because everybody's response is, well, how about we just hop on a call, right? But that's everybody's response, right? So this homeowner who's spoken to a bunch of people, it oftentimes, and I get what you're saying, David. I'm just talking about this one instance. Usually, I agree, push to calls as early and often as possible, right? Because that's where you can engage. That's where you can get into discovery. The KPI that we try to measure is how many discovery calls did you set up last month? How many did you close? Increase that number, right? But in that one use case where somebody's getting a little bit fed up because a lot of people are picking them, and they're just like, look, man, what are your offer? What's your offer? Or I want 200K. It goes back to what we were saying about providing solutions, right? So in that case, I would say, look, this is something that I take very seriously. I only work with a handful of homeowners. I can't give you a number that I'm fully confident is going to be rock solid unless we really discuss solutions. So how do you want to have that conversation, right? And get out of that. How about a quick call, right? Because everybody's trying that.
Sure. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Hey, Michael, what would be the best way for us to move forward? What do you think would be the best way? The info that I need. Yeah, for sure. Some version of that.
Okay, so I think that we covered most of the major questions. Anything that we didn't cover or that was very launch specific, we will follow up with you guys after the event. The recording of this event will be available to everyone if you want to share it with your teams or anybody else that may have missed it. And then I'm just going to let you guys give a quick closing statement. I'll give a quick closing statement and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, Jesus, go ahead. I talk first every time, so I'll let you go.
Well, I just want to say, guys, be aware of the data, right? Take the time to understand and create a plan, and without going guns blazing and the spray and pray approach. It doesn't work anymore, right? Take on the data from both ends, be intentional, create a strategy, and execute on that strategy. And creating decision trees, like Michael said, I think there was a really gold nugget there. We used to have a taxing script. It was like a mind map. Like if they answer this, you ask this. It was all templatized to systematize the way that you reach out and consistently get results, right? The results come from consistent action. So I would just end this with: know your market better than anybody else, understand the data, leverage the 80-20 principle into both ends, and be consistent with the decision tree that you can build for your team.
And we'll include it in the follow-up, of course, but what's your website?
8020rei.com. If anybody is interested in getting high quality data, we leverage machine learning and high-level predictive analytics to give a monthly list of the seller most likely to sell a discount. So you don't have this spray and pray approach, and you can really, really focus on the properties that are more likely to sell a discount.
Perfect. David?
Guys, again, thank you so much for having me on here this afternoon. It's an honor and pleasure to be with y'all. But for those that are listening and watching this back later, one of the things that we've spent a lot of time talking about is being efficient and being very targeted with your time. And what we know, and what I know after 21 years of doing this, is to move the needle in your company, you're going to have to be talking with sellers and talking with buyers. And the more time that you can spend doing that and less time on some of the administrative stuff, just the better, right? The more time you can have somebody else that can help you with your data and help you with your texting, and in our case, help you with your transactions, the more time that you can spend on revenue generating activities. And that's really one of the reasons that we started Easy REI Closings almost 3 years ago. We're the nation's largest virtual transaction coordination company. And our whole goal is very simply to help investors do more deals, make more money, and really have more freedom. And for us, the way that we do that is we want to take all of the paperwork off of your desk. Like everything that has to do with closings, we will handle all of that for investors. So literally from the moment you get your contract signed, you hand that off to us and we will take it from there. And, we have seen companies just have exponential growth, going from 1 to 2 to 3 deals a month to 5, 6, 7, people doing 10 to 20, people 15 to 30 deals a month, because now they're really spending time on the parts of the business that they love, not the parts that feel like you're walking through quicksand. So if that's something that we can help you out with, we'd love to. You can book a call with us at Easy REI Closings. I know you guys will provide the link a little bit later, but again, thank you for having us. And I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and share a little bit of the things that we've learned over the last couple decades.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it. So, guys, just to wrap this up, Launch Control is not just an SMS engagement platform. We're also the biggest network of real estate investors in the country. We're fortunate enough to work with people like Jesus and David and really helping businesses grow and put together some of these solutions and systems that we talked about today is something that we love to talk about. We love to expand on, and we would love to expand on. And so when you get the replay, anything you want to chime in on, other topics you'd like to discuss, other things where you'd like us to pull together some heavy hitters from the industry to really give you that knowledge you need to grow your business, let us know. We'll put together more events. And in the meantime, thanks for joining us and thanks for staying a little bit long. We appreciate it.
All right. Y'all have a great afternoon.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.